Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Dr. Perry.
Morning, Doc. How you doing? Hey, Miss Shields. How you doing, Dr. Shields? It's always a joy and a pleasure to see my friends on here.
You
Dr.
are
Perry,
a
I'm
sight
glad-
for sore eyes, Dr. Perry. I need to come visit you.
You sure do, Dr. Garner. I think we missed our last visit.
Yeah, and Dr. Perry, yeah, you didn't respond with nearly as much enthusiasm to me as you did Dr. Shields. I don't get it.
I'm sorry, sir. Please forgive me. Charlie took a head and not my heart.
It's all good.
Well, good to see y'all. Glad to have you. See you this morning. As you know, we're doing the ACT Workkeys this morning, so bear with us, okay?
Hello, everyone.
Hello, how are you?
How are you all?
Good morning. Are we going to give everyone a few more minutes to log on?
I think I'm letting them in. So I tell you what, Dr. Burroughs, if you guys want to go ahead and get started, we've hit record. We are so glad to see so many joining us this morning. We have a lot of information just like last time. So please know we're going to share a lot of slides. We're not going to be able to get to all of them, but we provided just lots of information that you can take back to your groups in your schools for further support. So welcome, Dr. Burroughs. I'm going to pass that baton to you.
Okay, as Dr. Shields said, thank you and welcome to our session today on starting strong, finishing stronger, ensuring CC readiness for all students. I'm going to turn it over to William so he can talk to those who have not registered for this session, how to go ahead and register so that you can receive your CEU credits.
Good morning. As you can see on the screen, we have updated our Power School registration. Our Power School registration information should be visible on the screen. I've also posted the link in the chat. At the end of the presentation, we will have the ability for you to complete an attendance survey. And based on those responses, we will award credit in Power School. I will ask that if you want to receive credit, that you will complete the registration in Power School. Last time I grabbed a few of you that completed the survey at the end and had not registered yet. This time I'm going to need you to register. And then also you'll see instructions on the survey to make sure that you use the name that's listed in Power School. But I have put a link in the chat to today's presentation and also a link in the chat for the Power School registration. So as you know, my name is William Jones, Office of School Improvement. You heard from our Dr. Marcy Burroughs, who will also be speaking with you today, and Dr. Joseph Garner. You also heard from our illustrious boss and coordinator, Dr. Melissa Shields. But you will see the rest of the gang on the screen in front of you. That's our amazing team of specialists and administrators. We also have quite a few of our principal coaches on the call with us today. So if you see the school improvement background, that's us. You'll notice the pink ribbons. We are honoring or bringing some awareness to Breast Cancer Awareness Month today. So you'll see most of us are wearing pink and wanted to include those ribbons on those slides. So that's our team. We also have a couple of guests with us, hopefully probably joining us this morning to answer questions if we have time at the end, and also to see some of the things that are posted in the chat. If they have answers, they'll respond to some of your questions. So that's Jennifer Burt and Nancy Prine from the CTE department that work with us in Montgomery. I have already posted the link to today's presentation in the chat, but if you want to you would prefer to use a QR code, you're welcome to scan that on your screen at this time, open up the presentation on your cell phone. You will also see on the right-hand side that we use Twitter a good bit in our office to connect with each other across the state and to share some of the amazing things that you all are doing in your schools. And so you will see the handle for the Office of School Improvement. You will see Dr. Burroughs's Twitter handle and mine, and then a couple of hashtags that you are welcome to use today. If you hear something you like and want to tweet about it, we highly encourage you to do so. We have a few virtual norms today, very similar to what we did the last time, so I won't spend a ton of time on those, other than to say that if you'll notice the fourth bullet on your screen, that is, we ran out of time last time to really address some of the questions. We tried to address as we went, and that just was not very time efficient for us. So what we want to do is make sure that we're going to move as fast as we can, and we will give time at the end, if possible, to address your questions. If not, we will take all those questions, compile a list, and we'll send those responses to you after the meeting. Finally, getting into the goal of today, reminding you from our previous session, the objective for us is linked to the Alabama Achieve Strategic Plan. It has been set as a goal for us to prepare students to be college and career ready, and also in that goal that we want to reduce the gap between the college and career readiness rate and the graduation rate. And so today's presentation is part of us working to achieving that goal. So we are thankful that you are here with us. We hope you gained something from today. So Dr. Burroughs.
Hello once again. So today's session, we're going to do an overview of what we did last couple of weeks ago. We're going to look at the next 3 indicators, which will be your AB, making scores on your AP and IB exams. We're going to talk about career technical education, including military. We're going to do a brief overview of those processes and procedures, those things that work towards ensuring that students are graduates and are prepared to go to college, career, or the workforce after they graduate high school. And then we're going to have a reflection and survey time. Now, in our overview, we're going to be talking about the accountability weights, which is just those items that are indicators that are located on the report card. And then we're going to look at the graduation and college and career readiness rate, looking at that gap. And then talking about those remaining CCR indicators, because the overall goal of Alabama education is for that every student become a graduate from high school and have the necessary knowledge and skills that they need to move on after high school. So this screen that you see here is your accountability weights indicator. And you saw this screen last time, but the difference is it was a circle graph. So now we just have a chart. So we know that the grad rate is an accountability measure. And the whole reason for this session is to look at ways to close that gap between our grad and CCR rate. Because once that grad rate became an accountability measure, we focused on the grad rate. And focusing on the grad rate, our college and career readiness rate. And so what that means is that students were said that they had what they needed in order to graduate, which is a high school diploma. But as far as being prepared for high school after graduation, the CCR measures indicated something different. Now, the graduation and the CCR rates are used to determine the success of Alabama educational system. So with the grad rate, you're looking at the number of students who are successful and who graduate high school in 4 years. With your college and career readiness rate, you're looking at the number of students who enter high school 4 years, but yet they have earned at least one indicator, whether it's in Workkeys, ACT, credentialing and CTE, AP or making a qualifying score on the AP or IB exam, and then enlisting in the military. Now, so our focus once again is to talk about or to look at that gap in your grad or CCR rate. So having both a high grad rate and a CCR rate indicates that those diplomas that are used by schools have credible value. But when you have a graduation rate that's high, but a CCR rate that's low, then there is cause for concern. So this does not mean that you're on a list. What we're trying to do is just provide supports and guidance with identifying the disparity between the grad and your CCR rate and how we can close those gaps. Just briefly going over this slide, we know how to calculate the grad rate. We talked about that last time. It's based on your 4-year cohort, those 9th graders who enter into 9th grade for the first time and they graduate within 4 years. So you calculate your grad rate by simply taking the number of students graduating within 4 years from that cohort divided by the total number of students who actually started out in that cohort. And your grad rate is 1 year in arrears, which means it's reported the following year. Your college and career readiness rate, that's also 1 year in arrears because it's based on those 9th grade students entering into 9th grade. So your CCR rate is calculated by looking at the number of students in that 4-year cohort who have earned a credential, and then taking that and dividing it by the total number of students who are in that cohort. Your CCR rates are retrieved from the CCR portal. So one of the questions that was asked on the survey was for us to explain a little bit more about the College and Career Readiness Dashboard and how to get access to that dashboard. So with your CCR dashboard, it's going to allow the designated person from the LEA to review data that's past, current, and future. And it's for those particular graduates. So in that CCR portal, it's simply the percentage of students who earn at least one or more CCR credentials. No additional weights for students who meet multiple indicators will be given. No data is updated directly into the CCR portal. All changes are made in PowerSchool SIS. So if there are any changes that need to be made, you have to make those changes directly in PowerSchool. Any entries and changes, you can make those changes until the graduation cohort closes. This does not mean that students can continue to earn CCR indicators after they graduate. It just simply means that changes can be made up until that portal closes. All changes to or indicators must be entered in the CCR portal prior to students graduating or prior to their graduation date. And this includes any students who complete their matriculation in high school during the summertime. You can only earn CCR indicators once. Your military enlistment, college credit attainment, and career tech credentials are pulled nightly from the student information system, and it typically takes about 48 hours for that information to be updated and reflected in your dashboard. Now, access to the CCR portal is determined and managed by the LEA. So those roles are assigned in the education directory. So if you don't have the necessary access that you need to the CCR dashboard, you need to make sure that you contact someone at your district level. Now, in the next slide, we're just going to simply look at how to access the CCR board. So to access it, this is a hyperlink. So you can click directly on this link. And once you click on that link, it will take you to the login portal where you enter in your email address or your password. So once you enter that information, it's going to take you to a page with a list of tiles. And this will also tell you what tiles you have access to. So if you're at the district level, you're working in CTE, a curriculum, or accountability, you may want to have access to the college and career readiness tile. Now, and then once you click on that tile, it will take you to a page that will this information. And as you look, you will see all of these CCR indicators located across the top of this page. And it will also tell you the number of students who have met or who have earned that CCR indicator for each one of the 7 sections. Now, last time we talked about the CCR indicators, ACT, Workkeys, and earning college credit. Now, what we did here for you all today is we went ahead and added additional columns on the evidence that you'll need to support your students, saying that your students have earned that particular indicator. Now, and then we also went back and added who's responsible for making sure that that information is entered into Power School SIS. So with your ACT, you know that students can benchmark on the ACT. They can earn that indicator if they benchmark in one of these areas, whether it's English, reading, math, or science. They have to benchmark in at least one of those areas. Now, to earn a CCR indicator, you only have to earn that indicator for one of these 6 sections that we have. Some people say 7 because they count IB exams separately. So with your ACT and your ACT Workkeys, your evidence will be that student report or school report. And this information will be uploaded at the State Department level from a file that they received from ACT. Now with Workkeys, in order to benchmark for it to count for accountability, students have to earn at least a silver. There are 4 different performance levels for Workkeys: bronze, which is a 3, silver a 4, and then gold and platinums are 5 and 6. But students must have at least a 4 to count for accountability. As far as earning that NCRC certificate for businesses, for employment, they will need a 3. But for accountability purposes, they will need a 4. And then we talked about college credit as well. And with college credit, we know that that encompasses more than just enrollment. It takes into consideration venues as well, such as early college and summer programs. This applies to both in-state and out-of-state. And with your college credit, you will not transcript a college credit onto the students. The only thing that will be transcripted will be those dual enrollment courses, because those are approved courses. You just have to make sure that with that college transcript, that the evidence that you have is the official college report that is placed in the student's cum folder. And that information is entered into the grade book by your LEA designee. Now, the next 3 indicators that we're going to be talking about today will be the qualifying scores on the AP or IB exam, military enlistment, and career tech. So with your AP exam, you have to have a qualifying score of a 3 or higher. IB exam, a score of 4 or higher. Your evidence will be a student report or school report. That information is uploaded into the system by the State Department. With the military enlistment, students must enlist in the military branch before graduating from high school. So evidence of that would be an official letter from the recruiter stating that the student has enlisted. And that information will be entered into the system by your LEA designee. Career tech, we know that students just must earn their credential in a particular pathway. Dr. Garner is going to talk a little bit more about earning your Cte credentials. And that information must be updated also by LEA designee. We had that question last time about how to enter that information. And if you click on this link, it will take you to the directions on how to enter a credential into PowerSchool SIS. So looking at all 6 or 7 of our indicators and what it takes for students to earn that CCR credential so that we make sure that they're prepared for life beyond high school. These are the areas where students credential in the 2019 school year. And we're seeing here that the majority of our students credentialed in Workkeys. So you only need one of these indicators, once again, in order for your students to be considered or to earn that credential and to be considered to be prepared for life beyond high school. Now, as we talk about your AP and IB exams, we're going to go through this section rather quickly. With your AP and IB exams, we had about 12% of those 2019 graduates who earned a qualifying score on the AP exam. And then we had about 1% who earned a qualifying score on their IB exam. So with the advanced placement, just some overall basic information about earning that indicator. Students must earn at least a 3 or higher, as I stated earlier. The data is entered in by the college, by the State Department from the College Board, and the data is uploaded in the portal when it is verified and matched. And also the portal is going to display the highest score that was attained by that student. Now in this next slide, it just talks about the AP. With the AP program, students have the opportunity to study at the college level. There are about 36 courses and exams that are available for students to take. Courses are comparable to college courses, which is why once a student earns that qualifying score of a 3 or higher, they can receive college credit or advanced placement. Also, if you have a teacher who has been teaching AP courses for at least 2 years, they can apply to become an AP reader. So what is the impact of having AP courses? Well, students will learn time management skills. It's going to help them with their college admissions. And also students who take AP classes in high school are shown to be more successful when they go to college. Also, students are more likely to complete college in a timely manner. So now let's get to the crux of evaluating your AP program. These are some of the things that you need to look at. For those of you who offer AP courses, you want to make sure that you have an AP coordinator. I know that, that's a given and everybody knows you need to have an AP coordinator, but some may not, okay? So you need to make sure that you have an AP coordinator in place and that coordinator has participated in training. If you click on this link, it will provide you additional information from the College Board on about the roles and responsibilities of the AP coordinator. Also, make sure that your teachers who are teaching your AP classes have attended those summer meetings and are AP trained by the College Board. You need to look at the percentage of students who have benchmarked on the AP exam. If you're giving AP or you have AP courses and you have not had students to benchmark within the last 5 years or so, just haven't had that much luck with students. When they do benchmark, they're not earning a qualifying score. Well, this time evaluate your AP program because we want to make sure that we are getting the most bang for our buck and that those AP courses are actually having an impact on student learning. And then you also need to make sure that when you are, how you're preparing your students to take the AP exam, look at what type of supports that you may have in place. If you're on a block schedule and you offer AP classes in the fall, and then students are not taking anything in the springtime, you may want to look at when you are scheduling your AP courses and whether or not you offer some additional support in the springtime. You also want to make sure that teachers are turning in those AP approved course syllabus, and that you're offering courses that are actual AP courses. You cannot just stick a name on a course and call it an AP course or call it a pre-AP course. So you want to look at your course offerings and make sure that everything that you are doing, that your practices align with the College Board. Also with your course offering, as I stated earlier, if students are not benchmarking on the AP exam with a qualifying score of a 3 or higher, then you may want to reevaluate those courses that you're offering. You may want to consider offering some courses that have a prerequisite, like AP that do not have a prerequisite, like AP Environmental Science or Computer Science, Statistics, some of those courses. Now, here we're going to look at the AP Classroom. The AP Classroom, this is just a platform that administrators can use where they can view and manage those instructional resources. So within this platform, you have different resources for planning, teaching, providing practice, assessing, and then giving feedbacks, and then preparing students for their exam. Your AP Classroom is just a course and exam description for those AP courses, to include a unit guide, a pacing and sequencing guide that offers suggestions on how to integrate the materials into the courses, and then a call out unit weight, which helps focuses instruction on the topics so that we can make sure that we have the biggest impact. And then you have your progress monitoring tool. Your progress monitoring tool, you have 3 different areas. You have your topic questions, which are simply those formative assessment questions where teachers can pick questions and develop specific content and skills that they're teaching. You have your personal progress check, where teachers can measure students' progress throughout the units. And then you have the progress dashboard, where you can look at the progress of your students. So this is one way we can make sure that students are staying on track, and that we're providing them with the necessary supports.
So International Baccalaureate, we're going to go quickly through this session. We're already a little behind our time schedule. So IB exams are scored on a 1 to 7, and I'm not sure how familiar you all are with IB, so we'll just kind of briefly go over it, and then if you want more information, you're welcome to reach out. But a qualifying score on an IB exam is a 4. That information is uploaded by the department. And so it comes to us in a data file and is uploaded there. I will say that a 4 is not comparable to like a 3 on AP exam. So I don't want you thinking, well, if we added IB, then it would be similar to adding AP in our school. It's a completely different format. So again, if you want more information, reach out and we can chat about it. But that's the IB exam. That's the initial CCR earning is the 4. All right, Dr. Burroughs. IB is made up of 3 core elements. I want to point out the extended essay is one piece of that that's required of all IB programs. Students start an essay that's one component of the credentialing process, and that essay has a minimum of 4,000 words. We then have 6 subject groups, and within those subject groups, we see 2 levels of courses, but numerous courses within those subject groups. What I do want to point out for those that have IB schools in their districts that want to think about CCR readiness, there are several tracks that we see in Alabama that allow for students to take the IB exam at the end of their junior year as opposed to the end of their senior year, which means they could earn the CCR indicator earlier. And those are generally, we see those in Spanish or another foreign language. So in the language acquisition subject group, and then in the arts, you can earn a CCR indicator in psychology, film, music. Those are all SL or standard level courses that a student could earn that CCR indicator at the end of, because they can sit for the exam at that point. Quickly though, again, the difference between IB and AP is what this slide was there for, is that's to say the AP hinges on one single exam. IB is an exam process that's made up of 3 to 4 separate assessment components. And so students are not only sitting for exams, they're actually doing some other additional assessment opportunities to prove or to earn that 4 that you saw earlier. What you'll see on the screen is, so language acquisition, we do see some schools in the state use this as a way to earn a CCR. Students take Spanish 3 the fall of their junior year and Spanish 4 the spring of their junior year. But you will see that to earn a credential or earn a qualifying score in Spanish, for example, the student has written 2 papers and they've sat for 1 actual IA, which is an individual assessment, so 1 exam. So it's 3 assessment components into 1 to earn the credential. And so, right, what you'll see on this screen is just some structures, some IB structures. We recommend that schools that have IB programs have a coordinator, an administrator, and a counselor that are all devoted at least a portion of their time to the IB program. We also made some instructional recommendations at the bottom of the screen that schools that have IB cohorts are utilizing writing as a requirement of all instruction. They are also, there's some tips about purchasing the exams. You can get the examiner notes, all those things. Also want to mention that IB provides numerous resources. They are quite expensive at times, but you can reach out to them at any point. You're trying to build your program or build more success within your program. They have a wealth of resources and are happy to help.
Now we're going to move on to career tech. Dr. Garner will be discussing the career and technical education indicators.
All right, thank you, Marcy, and I appreciate that very much. And good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to start off with a question. Why is it important that we have a focus on career and technical education? And that's just a rhetorical question because I don't expect you to answer that at this point. But if you think about the percentage of students that you have going to a 4-year university beyond secondary education, that percentage may be low or may be high depending on the community and the students that you serve. But the majority of the schools that I serve and that I have worked with in the past roughly have a percentage of about 30% that move on to a 4-year college after high school. So what are we doing with the remaining 70%? And I want you all to remember that, you know, the credential isn't the tail that wags the dog wags the tail. So if you're providing effective career pathways or career programs that are relevant to student interest and meet business and industry needs while bridging the gap between high school and workforce and post-secondary education, that's the goal. And the career readiness indicators will be embedded within that particular pathway. And the slide that's reflecting right now is Alabama career clusters. There are 16 career clusters that have been identified, and the ACCP, which is the Alabama Committee on Credentialing and Career Pathways, have identified common competencies required for each of the 16 career clusters or pathways. They also create career pathways within each cluster that include training and credentialing built into that particular career cluster. And there's a link on there for labor market information if you want to know more about the individual career clusters and the pathways within each of the career clusters. Please click that link. And part of the providing the best career pathways and opportunities for your students is evaluating your CTE programs. All right, an evaluation of your CTE programs, you're going to consider things like workforce expectations, which are through business and industry partnerships and Alabama Works, but you're also going to look at regional planning commissions and 2-year college expectations. We're going to also explore credentialing data today and how to pull that data and measuring the success of your CTE pathways or programs. And also one key component to sustaining a successful career pathway or program is career interest surveys by your students. And we never forget the military, because the military can provide that valuable job training depending on the career interest of the students. All right, partnerships that are formed through successful CTE pathways are formed in mind keeping Alabama Works and the critical needs areas identified through Alabama Works, as well as regional planning commissions and two-year colleges. The relationship component helps you provide the best you can for your CTE pathways, which in turn provides the best you can to ensure your students are college, career, or life ready. The advisory council, just a quick note about that. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know that each career pathway or career program within your school is required to have an advisory council that guides them with program needs, the direction, project-based learning opportunities, relationships between job needs and employability skills, job-related activities, trends and developments in business and industry, and it also can guide you through cooperative learning opportunities that are reflective of industry standards. A lot of individuals ask, how can I get additional equipment for my programs? The advisory council can help sponsor your particular pathways and provide additional equipment to meet program expectations. Also can provide industry manuals, career counseling, state-of-the-art equipment, and guide you through credentialing opportunities for young men and young ladies. All right, powerful career and technical education instructional practices. I want you to see, and I want you to draw a correlation between advisory councils and powerful career and technical education instructional practices. There are 6 identified career and technical education instructional practices, and first 3 on this slide, in creating a culture of learning. The learning environment sets high expectations and uses protocols of business and industry to promote and sustain student motivation. They also plan with the end in mind. The end in mind is bridging that gap between secondary and the workforce, or secondary and post-secondary community colleges. And through that process, if you have effective programs, CRIs will be available and embedded within each course identified in that pathway. But also instructional practices of collaboration. You have to have your relationships with post-secondary, business and industry, community, and student engagement to identify and continue to build those successful career tech pathways. And there's a link at the bottom of that screen, and Marcy, there's a link at the bottom of that screen if you want to see a little bit more detailed look-fors regarding instructional practices for career tech pathways. Please click that link. All right, and number 4, academic integration. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the measuring sticks of successful career tech pathways is the application of knowledge learned through core content classes. So it's important that it answers that question of why for young men and young ladies. So that academic integration is a key component to providing successful career pathways or career programs. And also it provides opportunities for internships and work-based learning, and can also provide assessment and feedback of your current career tech pathways. And then you have credentialing data, measuring success of a program. When looking at the success of a program, it's not just one item versus another. It's not necessarily just how many CRIs you're earning. That is one aspect of it, but you're looking at more of a comprehensive view of the program. Is the program able to sustain itself? Is the teacher building a program, or is the enrollment in that particular program declining? Then you review the percentage of students who are earning a credential in that particular pathway. Also, you review information from Cte, which is Alabama Career Planning System, to determine student interest. Does our pathway that we're offering meet the expectations within student interest? And then also looking at workforce development studies, review current trends in the job market to see if our career pathway that we're offering builds that bridge between secondary and the workforce. A couple tools used for assessing a CTE program provided you here on this slide, and they are hyperlinks so you can pull up the actual document. One is a program decision rubric, and the scale on that rubric is you would rate it by responding to those questions. Does it meet business and industry expectations or high demand jobs? And then the second one is LEA Career Readiness and Credentialing report. This is how you can track your credentials. And one of the components of successful career pathways is career interest inventory, which is done in the 8th grade, or should be done in the 8th grade through the Alabama Career Planning System, which is also known as Cooter. Our Cooter can provide you a great deal of information through the career interest assessment. It will identify those career clusters and even break it down into education, specific job skills required, and work values assessment for each student's career pathway. All right, it also provides a 4-year plan. If used properly, once they take that career interest inventory in the 8th grade, when they transition to 9th grade, it starts a 4-year plan. Now, those of you I know and I meet with, I don't generally stop at a 4-year plan. I want to look at a plan that's, what do you want to do when you get old like me, and work backwards so we can identify the multiple pathways to obtain that career goal. But Cooter also provides you with that 4-year plan. On this slide, I have provided you with career pathway guides. Each of these are linked to the specific guide in that career cluster. And each guide will break it down into career pathways and career programs, and also identify the career readiness indicator for each of those pathways. All right, now earning a Ct credential. And I want you to really listen carefully with this one because there has been a great deal of discussion around how can we improve our CRIs students earning at our school. I've heard stories of schools or LEAs allowing groups of students who are not declared or enrolled in a specific pathway, bring them into the library or the cafeteria, and everyone take guest service credentialing exam. And no longer is that allowed. The way the system is set up now, there's several things that have to take place. And first and foremost, the students are to be enrolled in a CTE program that has been declared by the local education agency. So your LEA has to declare specific programs that you're offering within your school to which a credential or CRI can be earned. A declared program is defined as a sequence of 3 courses within the same career cluster. And any credential exam a student sits for must be documented, and a student need only be enrolled in any course of the program sequence and demonstrate readiness as determined by documentation of the teacher to sit for the exam. So to recap that, the program area CTE program has to be declared by the LEA, and that program has to consist of 3 courses within the same career cluster, and students have to be enrolled in that particular class and determined ready by the teacher to take the exam. Now, one thing I want to point out, I did not say that they have to be a completer in a pathway to take a CRI exam. They have to be enrolled in the course that has the CRI embedded to be able to take the exam. All right, and utilizing lab course options. It always comes up about how do you meet the needs of the struggling learners when it comes to CRIs. In discussion with several people at the State Department, it was determined that, one effective way of addressing those needs of the struggling learner is to provide them an opportunity to sit in a CTE lab for each career pathway. And each career pathway has an identified course number. There's a credit-bearing course for a CTE lab within that particular pathway. What it does is provide additional time for young men and young ladies to get prepared, receive that intervention, or receive additional time for support to be prepared for that career readiness exam. All right. Credentialing in junior ROTC. Real quick, Marcy, can we go back to the other slide? Back one more real quick. Jennifer, can you hear me?
Yes,
Jennifer,
sir, we can.
Nancy, hey, I just want to give you an opportunity to recap on what I shared regarding the CRIs. Is there anything that I missed regarding career readiness indicators?
Let me go back a few more. Yeah. Dr. Burroughs, do you mind going back a few other slides, please?
Let me know when to stop.
Yes, ma'am, I'll tell you. Okay, so we'll just begin back at the, go forward, okay, right there. So we in Career Tech have actually, through Standards and Accountability Office that I oversee, we use what we term as EQIP, EQIP. And that is it's, of course, an acronym for Evaluating Quality Instructional Programs. So when I took this position, we did, a lot of you have probably heard of BIC, which is Business Industry Certification. And we just decided that that was not helping us close any gaps in the area of CTE with our students, because it was such a focus on business and industry only. And we're not moving away from that focus, but we really wanted to get down to the teacher level, because of course that's where the instructional and the curriculum, that's where all that happens. So we really just refocused our efforts, and we're really looking at the quality of programs. So to even scoot us back even farther, for those of you who are LEAs on the call today, I really encourage you to meet with your CTE directors, because we have also, through Perkins 5, once that was implemented, it really caused us to refocus to the quality instructional programs. And we use a comprehensive local needs assessment, the CLNA. And that's how another tool that we use to evaluate our programs, as well as the types of programs that we're allowed to offer, especially if you would like to spend federal dollars. So just like everything else, I was just astounded when I moved here that CTE does not have a needs assessment like every other federal program. So like I said, for those of you taking notes and the LEAs, I just encourage you to reach out to your CTE directors, or you can contact me, Jennifer Burt, and I put my email in the chat, as well as Nancy Prine, and her email is in the chat as well. But all of the other things definitely are ways that we evaluate our programs. And also in CUTR, the Alabama College Planning System, moving into the administrative code says going into your 9th grade year, you must enter the 9th grade with a 4-year plan. So we use all of those bullets on that prior slide to kind of help us guide our CTE students, and definitely with that comprehensive local needs assessment as to whether or not we're going to continue to be able to offer those programs. So it's a lot of all the things that were said prior to. So I think we can move along. I know we're the report. This isn't just on us today. So right here, earning a CTE credential. So Dr. Garner and Dr. Burroughs, is this where you would like for us to address some of the questions that were sent to me and Nancy in regard to how, when the CRIs and the accountability measures all kind of collide?
If if we have, thank you for offering, Jennifer. If we have time at the end of the presentation,
Absolutely.
we'll address all the questions. So we're gonna move right along. And so hopefully we can get back to you so you can expound on CTE and how to earn a credential.
Yeah, so if right here with the declared program, I will interject here and we can screen back around to that later. But we look at concentrators and not completers. So for the LEAs on the line, that's really important here again for you to contact us or your CTE directors, because we don't look at completers anymore. By federal law, we look at concentrators, and that means that the student has been enrolled in a program of study in CTE with at least 2 courses. Completers, as you know, were 3, but we're looking at a new definition by federal law with 2. So those 2 courses have to be in the same program of study.
Thank you for that.
And also the program must be declared in order for you to offer the credential, as well as the student needs to be tied to that declared program in order for the student to sit for the exam. So there's a lot of things. And like I said, we will go over this at the end if you need us to be a little more clear. We've got, some really good information to share.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer and Nancy. And I appreciate you taking the time to respond to some of those questions that were sent. I know it was a pretty lengthy list of questions. I hope we have time at the end to maybe address some of those.
Yes, sir.
But thank you very, very much. And if you don't mind, I'm going to add a little bit about the comprehensive local needs assessment. That is a requirement to receive your Perkins 5 money. And if you're wondering where that is located and what it is part of your Cognia ACIP diagnostics. So you can find the comprehensive local needs assessment in your ACIP diagnostics. All right, now credentialing in junior ROTC, that is one of the areas that you can be a completer and earn a CCR indicator. But it's not just about being a completer, which means completing 3 consecutive courses within that junior ROTC program. There are additional requirements above and beyond just being a completer. And if you were able to click on that link, or later when you get an opportunity to click on that link, it'll identify the additional requirements for earning that career readiness indicator for junior ROTC. All right, locating your credentialing data. You go back to the Ames portal. If you have access and are able to click on the student data tile, it will take you to the home screen. And this should be over here under Career Tech. That student data portal in the middle should be over Career Tech, not assessments. But you click on Career Tech and it'll give you a pull down menu or drop down menu where you can identify students' career tech credentials. And then it'll take you to a screen to put in the year, the school system, and the school of which the credential is earned. And what report you may be able to get from that is on the next slide. And this is CCR Credentials Data. After filtering some of the information, you get to a really workable document which tells you what credential the student earned, the date that they earned that credential, the cluster name, and the program name of which the credential was earned. So as you look at some of the documentation provided earlier, it'll help you complete that report for overall program assessment. And if you want to increase credentialing rates, you have to have a sustained established program. When I say this is not a sprint, it is not a sprint. It's a marathon. It's about having effective career pathways or opportunities for the young men and young ladies to learn those job skills to be successful, or to bridge that gap between post-secondary or secondary and post-secondary educational opportunities. So student program continuance means that you've got an established, sustainable program that meets business and industry expectations and post-secondary. You also want to ensure that you have credentialing opportunities that are embedded within each of the classes within that career pathway. And someone said there's a question. All right, this comes up quite often. Has there been any discussion about students being considered career ready after completing a pathway versus earning a qualifying score on a CRI exam?
Okay, if I'm understanding correctly, I think that was probably going to be some of you who handled the ESSA amendments possibly. There was some information shared, I think at Mega about that. And I'm really not, I don't think I'm the one to speak on that. I just know that we have not received any other information in CTE. So I'll pass that back to either you, Dr. Garner, or Dr. Burroughs.
Okay, thank you. And I've heard that there has been some discussion around completer status versus CRI exam qualifying score. But as of yet, that has not been changed. So students who need to earn a CRI must pass a CRI exam. All right, and these are some of the areas at which students can earn a career readiness indicator: ServSafe, Master Technician, Certified Medical Assistant. And there's just some examples. Thank you, Marcy. All right, also I provided, not necessarily to watch now, but you have to have an identity. What is your identity as a school? Create it and sell it. Questions to consider: what steps have you taken to inform all students about your CTE programs you offer? How do you market your programs to your students? And how do you expose students to possible careers linked to the programs you offer? This is about an 8.5-minute video. I urge you to take a look at it when you receive this presentation. It is how one school that I've worked with has really created outstanding career pathways and are selling it to their community, post-secondary, and business and industry. You have military attainment for CCR. All right, military enlistment after graduation or a split option. What's the difference between the two? One is, of course, they wait till after they graduate or finishing up their senior year to enlist in the military, or split option means that they've reached that point where they enlist in the military in a split option, which means at the end of their 11th grade year, they would go off to basic training and then return back to their school for their senior year. And upon completion of their senior year, will go to advanced training and wherever they are being based at as far as military base. Students must have completed the formal enlistment process prior to graduation and provide documentation of enlistment. And Military Enlistment Processing Station, which is MEPS, and that's in Montgomery, evaluations are also acceptable. The enlistment or MEPS process must be completed prior to graduation to count towards the school's CCR, and enlistment in any branch of service will satisfy that requirement, including the National Guard, whether it be Army, Navy, Air Force. Any of the National Guards will satisfy that requirement. And a passing score on the ASVAB will not count for this indicator. All right, the ASVAB, these are the minimum scores required to be accepted into any of these branches of service. As you can see, one of the lowest is the Army, which is probably why I enlisted in the Army. But keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, this is the minimum score required to be enlisted into the military. Depending on what career options you select or your interest, could require higher ASVAB scores to qualify for that position or that job within the military. So if you want to work in IT, the qualifying score on the ASVAB is going to be greater than 31. So please keep that in mind as you talk to young men and young ladies about ASVAB, is that depending on what you want to do with your career-wise or career options may require a higher ASVAB scores. Track students' enlistment in the military after graduation. Identify a school liaison. Have someone at the school who works specifically with the local recruiters and supports them, not only coming into the building and meeting with students, but college and career fairs. Include the military in that component as well. Reach out to the military recruiters, seek their support. They will help open in school. I've had many work carpool with me. I've had them come work football games with me. And they're more than willing to help support your students and their opportunities at the school. Request a copy of a recruitment letter or DD 214. DD 214 is just a military enlistment form. Not all students will have a recruitment letter, but once they enlist, they will have a DD 214. And code students in the information system must be marked as military enlistment for that to carry over for the CCR. And Marcy, I'm turning it over to you.
Okay, so in this section, we're just going to look at, I'm going to provide you with a few links for some Cte Grant Opportunities. One of the people in the surveys put demographically relevant, and I know that there are some school districts who have a difficult time with securing Cte teachers. So these are some different grants that you can apply for to receive monies for your Cte program. Some of these grants are awarded annually, so you just need to make sure that you check the grant website for the most up-to-date and accurate information. So now we're going to move on to processes and procedures. We are not going to go through this whole slide deck on processes and procedures. We're just going to look at the roadmap. However, these slide decks are also included in your presentation. So when you're looking at sure that students are college and career ready, you want to make sure that they have that 4-year plan that they start off in the 8th grade with. You want to make sure that you have somebody who's responsible for ensuring that that plan is administered to the students in the 8th grade. Then when they get to high school, have them develop a personalized academic plan where they outline what their plans are at that particular point, whether they plan to go to college, military, or go straight into the workforce. Whatever they decide at that time, make sure that their courses align with what they do in high school and beyond. Now, you also are going to go back and reevaluate their academic plan every year, or I say the students will reevaluate their academic plan every year. You also want to make sure you begin a cohort tracking spreadsheet or CCR tracking spreadsheet. A template was provided for you. You can take that document and make any adjustments that you want to make to it, but you want to keep up with your students in that particular cohort who have already earned a credential. Okay, that way you'll stay on top of what you need to do for those students who have not earned a credential and what type of supports. Also, Mr. Jones talked about the ASVAB CEP, the Career Exploration Program, and this is just another way students can go back and take another interest inventory, because the last one they took was in 8th grade, so their interest may have changed. So don't be hesitant to administer this ASVAB Career Exploration Program survey to your students. And then we want to also make sure that you are having those junior meetings. This is that last ditch effort to make sure that your seniors have everything that they need in order to graduate. They don't have to earn a CCR indicator to graduate, but that's one way to ensure that they are prepared for any of these areas after high school. You want to make sure that you conduct those transcript audits at least twice a year. This is not necessarily done after your junior year. This is something that you need to do every year, making sure that you conduct those transcript audits, because we do not want students to be duplicating credits which means, you know, they've taken English 9 twice and passed it twice, because they can only receive credit for a course one time. And then you want to also make sure, well, now it is a requirement that students complete the FAFSA for their 12th grade year. However, they complete a waiver and send it to the superintendent to sign off if they want to opt out of completing the FAFSA. So if you are following this pathway for your students, then we will ensure that they are graduates. And not only they're graduates, but they're graduates who are prepared to go straight into the workforce, to college, or to a branch of service. In this section, we'll be looking at the application and reflection. William, you want to talk about this section?
Yeah, so we are going to split up into breakout rooms, and you will see, Dr. Burroughs, if you will skip a couple of slides to the directions portion. We're going to put one more, please. There you go. Okay, hopefully you had some meaningful and some interesting conversations in your breakout rooms. As we come back together, I want to briefly talk about each one of the scenarios. We won't get to explore them super in depth given our time constraints, but do want to touch a couple of them. So scenario one, a couple of things you probably talked about with Christopher with a 15 on the pre-ACT. He's interested in possibly a career in the hospitality industry. In that regard, you're probably thinking, okay, CTE has hospitality and tourism. I would advise him to, if that's a program or a pathway we offer in our school, I would advise him to take an introductory course and see if he's interested, and then work towards taking the ServSafe, the industry credentialing exam for hospitality and tourism. And if that's what you suggested, you would be correct. But I also want to challenge you to look at Christopher and see that Christopher has a 15 on the pre-ACT. He is what ACT would consider on the cusp of becoming benchmark. And so he also has an opportunity, whether or not you may not know this or not, but University of Alabama has a fantastic hospitality and tourism program. And so Christopher could be potentially someone to consider post-secondary looking at college as well. So not only do we want to advise Christopher to look at our CTE programs, we want him to consider what does that look like beyond high school, and to make sure that he has all opportunities on the table. Student scenario 2, we look at Khalil. Khalil's in the 11th grade, earned a 26 composite score on the ACT. He earned a CCR indicator already because of the score on the ACT, but he's undecided with plans regarding college, and is expressed an interest in becoming an astronaut. So our natural, maybe our instinct is to say, well, Khalil's fine. He's already earned his CCR indicator. I can put him on the back burner. He's not someone I need to be concerned about. But that would be maybe not fully serving Khalil and his needs because he's not quite sure what his future plans are, but there are opportunities within the school setting that we could maybe explore some of those or set him up for success in the future. One of those being, if we're interested in, if he's interested in becoming an astronaut, well, then that gives the opportunity for, let's say, aerospace engineering, which is offered at Auburn. But a great way to get into that program is to join the JROTC program at the high school level and roll into JROTC at Auburn University. And so that's another opportunity for Khalil to plug into the military option, that JROTC credentialing pathway, to earn another CRI and or CCR indicator, sorry, and roll into a post-secondary collegiate program set for success. Student scenario 3, that's Sarah. Sarah has a 16 on the ACT. She's been offered collegiate kind of conditional admission because of her volleyball skills, but she's not earned a CCR indicator. And so Sarah's in a predicament in a sense. She's a 12th grader. We all know this scenario with a 16 on the ACT. What's about to happen to Sarah if nothing changes between now and when she graduates is that she's going to probably have to take maybe some remedial courses when she gets to college. And she may not even make it that first year in college because she's going to start off a little bit behind. And so what we like to remind folks when it comes to the ACT is, and we said this the last session, students can continue to take the ACT until they graduate, and those scores count towards that CCR rate, even though that's not the 11th grade sitting, which that 11th grade sitting for the ACT is what measures achievement and the growth category of the report card. When it comes to the ACT and being college and career ready, students can continue to take that. So for Sarah, we want to make sure that Sarah is in a program that's preparing her to be ready, so she's not having to take remedial courses when she gets to college. She can start directly in her degree plan, and she can start playing volleyball right away. She doesn't have to be redshirted or whatever that may look like for her. So there's still some room for us to give Sarah some guidance. Then we got into our school scenarios, and I'm running out of time, so I'm going to go fast. You should have probably noticed in this scenario one, the graduate GPA is a 3.2, which is relatively high for this school. But then if you look at ACT, there's a very low percentage of students that have earned benchmark scores, which means that I probably need to dig into the quality of instruction in this school to see if we're really preparing students for success beyond high school. Additionally, you saw that majority of these kids probably want to go into the workforce. So I should see those CTE rates probably a lot higher than what we're seeing. So those were probably the two biggest pieces from school scenario one. School scenario two is a little bit different. We had the same AP rate, but notice we had 2 classes offered in school scenario one, 8 here. So 8 AP courses and still only 4% in that AP category of CCR. So that's another place I need to dig in and kind of do some trimming maybe to see what AP courses are necessary, which ones are working and successful for us, and which ones maybe should not be part of our programs. This school also has a JROTC program, but has a 0% of students enlisting in the military. That's something else I want to dig into and figure out, why are we not connecting to military service beyond high school? So those are the big takeaways for that. Quickly. I put this slide here to focus on the word and. Many of you in that chat kind of grouped kids in or. They were either college or career, and our job is to prepare students for college and career, so they have both as an option post high school. The chance grant, as schools that were invited to participate in this setting with more than a 25-point gap between your graduation rate and your CCR rate, you are eligible to apply for the chance grant, which is the $200,000 to $500,000 renewable grant that is offered to the Federal Programs Department. There are 5 resources located on this slide in our presentation. If you're interested in applying, I would start with those resources, but you're welcome to reach out to us and connect with federal programs as well. We're going to skip the first portion of the reflection. As a reminder, these are the state CCR readiness measures and rates. So use these as comparison when you're looking at your programs and where you are, and identifying areas for you to have some growth and some areas of improvement. Slide 105, the next slide, some questions for you to ponder on as you're kind of considering what should be our next steps as a school and as a district. And then on slide 106, you will see the survey link for today. I will need you to complete this survey in order to give you or award credit in PowerSchool for your attendance, and so that you receive the additional 1.5 credit hours here. Again, let me remind you, I really need you to use your name as it is in PowerSchool. Some of you received emails from me 2 weeks ago because I couldn't quite figure out who you were in the platform. Dr. Shields was kind enough on the next slide to provide you all links and resources back to our session from 2 weeks ago, and even from the session that we offered back late last fall, in cleaning up your data. So those resources and links and information are on that slide. But we're going to allow our guest, if we have a few minutes, I think, Dr. Burroughs.
Yes, thank you. As you all are completing your survey, We're gonna ask Jennifer and Nancy if they will unmute so they can finish their conversation about career tech and how to credential. I do want to thank them for giving us their time today to talk about credentialing and CTE.
Absolutely. Thank you. We always welcome the opportunity to talk about CTE. So just a couple of things that we wanted to circle back around to that we discussed on the reports. And I'm going to, it's the document where it had two where you can evaluate your career tech programs as well as list the CRIs. We just want to caution everybody that a paper document is great, but please, please, please make sure that whoever in your LEA is the designee to enter credentials, that person is entering the credentials pretty shortly after the students earn them, because that is a great way for us to lose, but I do caution, check with your LEA and find out who the person is, because some LEAs will allow the teachers to enter the credentials, but some LEAs, like the one where my local LEA, I was the only one as the CTE director because I had that documentation. Also, speaking of documentation, we need to make sure that if a student, if the only CCR benchmark that a student makes is a CRI, you possibly at some juncture through prevention and support services may be asked to validate that credential. So we, and a lot of our credentials are paper documents. So we just urge everyone to make sure that that documentation is, being kept up with as well. On the declared programs, just real quickly, we must declare the program. The student must then be declared, and in order for the credential to be earned. So in other words, if you're unfamiliar, if a student is given a CRI exam and passes, and the person, the designee in the LEA goes to enter that credential, if those two things have not been done, if the program hasn't been declared and the student has not been tied to that declared program, there will not be a drop down that allows the person to enter that credential. So that gets a lot of people frustrated and they don't really know what to do. So how is a program declared? So we have we have a resource, and I don't mind passing that along to Dr. Burroughs so that we can give that to everyone. But in the meantime, please reach out to your CTE director in the LEA, because he or she has the answer to that. I'm going to cover one other area. Someone referenced ASVAB and getting our students ready for that in career tech. To go back to the Alabama College Planning System, we actually have offered a suite of services that career tech pays for. We pay for in Cooter. It's the Alabama College Planning System, and that is where the four-year plans are developed. So that's one part of the suite. The second part is Peterson's test prep, and that is not only for ASVAB scores or to help get the students ready, but you can also practice ACT, Workkeys. So that is a very wonderful resource that is absolutely provided free to every LEA and every student in the state of Alabama. And there is also AP prep on there. So it's called Peterson's test prep. And your curriculum and instruction contact in your LEA should be able to reach out, and I'll also provide that. I see Dr. Shields just put that in the chat, but I will also provide that as a resource. So that's why I wanted to make sure that I interjected that. Before I give Nancy an opportunity on the CTE lab, she wants to speak to that and to co-op and work-based learning as well, I believe. I just want to reiterate that the programs must be declared, the students must be declared in order for that CRI attainment to be documented. We wanted to say that a lot of questions come out about if we are on a block system and a student is able to set for we take the course and the student is not ready, is the term I think was used earlier. So the teacher just says, you're not ready yet, but the student might, through remediation or whatever the efforts are, second semester wants to come back and take the exam. That is doable. It's acceptable as long as those first two things happen. The program is declared and the student is declared and is tied to that program. So it can happen anytime through the graduation period for that student, as long as he's in that cohort and has not been declared a graduate. You may always go back and offer that credential to that student. If a student who transfers from one school to another earns a CRI, you know, who gets credit? And I use air quotes around that. So who gets credit? I want to say that the credential always follows the student, but it also goes back to if the receiving LEA does not offer that program or has not declared that program, then unfortunately the credential, it just stays with the student. It is not factored in the CCR attainment with that receiving LEA. So hopefully that makes sense, but that's always a question that we get. If a student earns, is enrolled in dual enrollment and earns a credential through dual enrollment, I would say that, you know, we can always bring that back. If we have a declared program, that credential may be entered into the student's record. We have a way that if a student earns a credential outside of a declared program, it's called non-public. There's a function in PowerSchool, non-public, and it may be added to the student record. It will not count in CCR attainment whatsoever, but it always stays with the student. And I'll address, can a CRI be earned after the four-year cohort has been declared as a graduate? And here again, as long as those standards have been covered, and I'll use the example of maybe I don't pass welding 1, and I come back during summer school and I do pass the course, then I can take the credential, the CRI, and I pass the exam. Then as long as you know, you have those summer graduates, that period, then as long as I've not been declared a graduate, then I may still be able to enter that into the drop down in the student's record for the CRI. But if that student has been declared a graduate at any point in time, then you will not be able to go back and enter that credential, regardless of if the program has been declared or if the student has been declared in the program.
You need to answer that.
So,
2 years ago.
how much, okay, when does it go into effect for us to declare programs? That happened 2 years ago. So we really went from, you could offer any credential at any time. That was prior to my getting here. Once I got here, we had and I'll just go ahead and say it, everyone. There were LEAs that took advantage of credentials because that was just a quick way to earn the CCR attainment. And, you know, for accountability reasons, that just wasn't a good scenario. So we really got serious about writing business rules, and we started declaring programs. Year before last, we allowed, while we were transitioning into either you declare it or you're not able to do it. During that transition year, we allowed the 10%. So if you are familiar with our CRI introductory page, or where our list of CRIs is on our website, you may have seen that in the past, but the last year and this year was when a program has to be declared and the student must be declared as well.
Can I speak to that? There's a question that continues to come up about how a program is declared. A program is declared by your CTE director. We have directions for your CTE director to declare it in PowerSchool. And basically they have to, and I'm just talking from I'm Julie Turner, by the way. And we're talking from a data standpoint. If the program, and this is how your CRIs actually get to where they count. If the program is declared, then the student is declared, then the student must have a course code that falls under that program declaration, the student declaration in that program. If all three of those things do not fall into place, they're not going to get credit for any of the CRIs. So that may be some of the reasons that some of you are saying that the CRI is not checked in the box in the CRI because maybe the program and the student was not declared correctly. So we do have some screenshots for PowerSchool on how that's done. And your career tech director has this information, and that's how it's declared. It's declared in PowerSchool. It rolls over into AIM, and we actually have a data tile for career tech directors where they can pull just CTE students and see proficiency just for CTE students and see credentials and see, they can see how many credentials were taken, how many were passed, in what program areas. And then also you can't just declare a program willy-nilly. You have to go through an application process where it comes through the Standards and Accountability Office, where we look at your Purpose 5 money, we look at your labor market data, we ask, is this reasonable? Is it necessary? Is it allocable? And then once we get past the fiduciary and the legal part of it, then we pass it on to the program specialist who's going to make sure that you have a teacher who's eligible to teach that program and that you're going to offer the courses within a certain amount of, within a certain time. And so then you can declare it once we give you permission. Yes, we will be able to share this information with Dr. Shields, and Dr. Shields will get it to you. But there's a process to all of this. And it's basically going to come back to your CRIs if they're declared properly and if they're not. Now, the problem is if they are not declared, they're not going to have data. And so that's not okay, because they're having to certify this data too, just like you would in any other data portal. They have to certify this data. So your career tech director. So this is something that's been going on for 2 years, because we've been working on this data app for 2 years. So get with your career tech director. They know all about it, and they will be able to share this information with you. And of course, I'm retiring as of tomorrow, so these ladies will be glad to share this information with you on the career tech student app, student profile app.
So just a couple other things. Dr. Burroughs, you had some reflection questions. So it says it's about ROTC. Does military enlistment occur as a result of the program? And the answer is no, it doesn't automatically result. It's over the course of 3 ROTC courses. So there's paperwork that the CTE director and the ROTC instructor will fill out. And if all of those conditions have been met, then it will, it could result in the credentialing. So it says, are students credentialing in ROTC? So that is the answer to the 3B, is that there are not CRIs that are offered, but a student could be considered CCR attainment as a result of those 3 years in good standing with ROTC. And I will say that it can also cause them or help them enter into the military at a higher rank. So it not only does it help us in the realm of CCR attainment, but it can help with that as well. So Nancy wanted to address the CTE lab and work-based learning and co-op. There were a couple of questions about that.
Well, thanks for hanging in there with us and for letting us participate. That we do offer a CTE lab, and Joe referenced that on one of his slides, and it is an active course. All 16 clusters do have a CTE lab associated with that cluster, but it won't always be offered, not at every school, not every semester. Originally, it was designed as a capstone class, It still has to be overseen by a certified teacher. It's not like a study hall. It's really a capstone, so that you might have a student who doesn't qualify for the normal cooperative education experience, but they actually could be going off campus and doing something in the health science field or in any of the other 15 declared cluster areas. But a CTE lab could be used by a director or a principal if it is indeed facilitated by a certified career tech teacher. So that is one of the ones, and they'll show up on every single program guide that you see. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you is about traditional cooperative education. Under Perkins 5, there's a different definition now for work-based learning, and every single career tech teacher and every single career tech class has to offer work-based learning. That could be job shadowing, it could be guest speakers, it could be career fair. There's 7 different things that they must all do and offer to their students. The coordinator for traditional cooperative education, that's what you normally think about when they have to be a concentrator. They have to have had 2 courses in a sequence program area before they're even allowed into cooperative education. That's what you traditionally think about when your students go to school half a day and then they leave campus and go to a work site. But if you have any questions about cooperative education, work-based learning, anything that has come up through this great discussion, then please reach out to us and we'll be glad to answer your questions. Dr. Shields, your team, Joe, thank you very much for getting us the questions and letting us be a part today. And we look forward to hearing from you.
Well, I want to thank all of you all for attending. Those of you who stayed on past the time, thank you. This is very valuable information, and we know that all of this information is important, leading towards ensuring that our students are ready for college, career, and the workforce after they leave high school. I do want to thank the CTE department for joining this meeting. They did not hesitate when we called and asked them to jump on the meeting with us today, so we can make sure that we're providing you all with all the necessary information that you need to support your students. There was a question at the end of the survey about if you all need additional support or wanted to have an additional session pertaining to this, closing that gap between the grad and the CCR rate. Please make sure that you complete that question if that is what you desire. And we are always here to support you all in any way that we can. Thank you for joining on, and we appreciate everything that you do.